The month after he or she retired, they had a heart attack, or they were diagnosed with cancer, or they had a stroke. Fill in the blank with any major health problem. And this is happening time after time after time. I read about this a lot. People working 30, 40, 50 years, they retire, and then soon after that, they have a major health issue or life ending health issue, and retirement is gone just like that. Hi, I'm Kevin, and I'm a mid 50s Gen Xer, and this is my channel called My Digital Retirement. This is where I talk about all things retirement related and from the perspective of a Gen Xer. You can't foresee these health events and you can't plan for them. You don't know if or when they're going to happen, but you should be aware of the fact that they can and they do happen all too often. One thing you should be looking at is family history of these kinds of diseases. So think about your parents, your grandparents, people that are close to you who have died, and did they have a major ailment? Did they have heart attack? Did they have cancer? Did they have a stroke or Parkinson's disease or any number of things that could, in fact, be passed on genetically, and you may be at risk for these. So this isn't the most joyful of topics, but this is all about being real. So if you're planning for retirement and you're thinking about what it is that you want to do in retirement, then number one, you should be making a list of all those things. What is it that you want to get out of retirement? What is it that you hope to do with your time? Do you want to travel? Do you want to visit family? Do you want to be more in your grandchildren's lives? Do you want to go to sporting events? I mean, the list could be anything, but you should really be thinking about what those items are and start planning for those so that you know what it is that you would really like to do within your own retirement. These harsh realities have made me think a lot. I read a story recently about micro retirements. So Gen Zers and millennials are taking what they're calling micro retirements, where they are stepping away from work. They've saved money, they have low expenses, and they are taking, I guess you would call it a sabbatical from their career, whatever it is they might be doing. It might be just a number of months, it might be a number of years, but they're doing this to achieve more work-life balance, to get away from the stress of working, with I think the intent of ultimately going back to work at some point. I don't think this should be limited to just millennials or Gen Zers. If you've saved enough and you have the ability to do that, then maybe this is a good option for you to step away and do some of the things that are on your retirement bucket list that would be better served to do when you're healthy, when you have more vitality, more energy, and you're able to do those things rather than waiting until you're in your 60s or 70s or later, and taking the risk that you might have one of those um, medical events that could take you out of the game and out of retirement altogether. I'm part of Gen X, and a lot of folks in Gen X have not saved enough for retirement. There are some that have saved little to none, but overall, the amount that has been saved for retirement as a generation is much lower than it should be. So I believe with all the factors taken into consideration, especially the health factors and the unknowns, that we should be looking at trying to do more of the things that we want to do, what we traditionally would have waited until retirement to do. We should start thinking about doing those now, between now and the time that we're going to actually retire from working. You know, for those in Gen X or really anyone who hasn't saved enough for retirement, the reality is that we may end up having to work longer so that we can go into retirement with enough money to retire when coupled with Social Security. With all of those things being said, I believe that it makes good sense to think about, okay, can I go ahead and start doing some of these things now where I might enjoy them more or more fully than if I did them when I'm much older? So if you have your finances in order and you're just working to save for retirement, meaning you're debt free and you have the ability to spend some money now while you're making a better income, compared to when you go into retirement and you've got less on a monthly basis that you'll have in terms of disposable income. It makes good sense financially and for the other reasons that I've talked about to start doing some of those things now. So taking trips, going to see the grandkids, visiting national parks, taking those bucket list trips out of the country, any of those things, now is the time. So start thinking about that. One thing that's always shocked me is the fact that a lot of people that get paid time off through their employers don't take their PTO. They don't take their vacation time. And I think a lot of times it depends on the job and the stress and other factors that prevent people from taking it. But if you've got the paid time off, now is the time to take advantage of that and to do those things that are on that bucket list. So make sure that you're taking that PTO, doing those things now when you have the strength, the endurance, the stamina, the desire. Even you may find that when you hit your 60s or 70s or 80s that you don't have the desire to do some of those things that are on that list, and you don't want to have regrets. And so now is the time to take advantage of being able to do those things. The average life expectancy, according to the CDC, for men is right at 75, and for women it's at 80. So you factor in the family history with health concerns when your parents or grandparents or great grandparents passed away. You start adding all those things together and you look at what the average life expectancy is. I would say I want to err on the side of doing those things now rather than waiting and then finding out it's too late or I didn't get to do them at all. So what I recommend is make that bucket list. I know you've thought about all these things, but have you actually written them down? Make a list of all the things that you want to do, whether it be hobbies, whether it be trips to, once in a lifetime destinations, or making that trip across country to see the foliage in the fall in the Northeast. Make that list now. So we talk about needing to work longer to save for retirement, maybe being part of Gen X where you've not saved quite enough. So you've got a good paying job now, but you know that in retirement, you're not going to have that income coming in. What I would recommend is if you have your finances in order, meaning ideally you're out of debt, maybe not your house, but maybe your house is paid off, but ideally you're not, in debt, making credit card payments, student loan payments, all those different things. Ideally, you're in that situation and you're spending money on a day-to-day basis for everyday expenses, your mortgage, gas, groceries, internet, streaming services, everything that you spend money on today could be put on a credit card that has a program. It's geared towards travel, miles, and points. And that in turn could result in you being able to travel and do some of the things on your bucket list that you would have done in retirement, being able to do those now and doing them for less, and in some cases, maybe even free because of the miles and points that you've accrued. The key here is not going into debt in order to get the miles. So you're not chasing miles and points. You're using your everyday spend, putting it on a credit card or a set of credit cards specifically geared towards this type of reward system for miles and points. And then you're paying it off every month. So you do not carry a balance. So if that's something that you have trouble with, or you're in debt, or you don't have the ability to pay it off every month, then this is not for you. You need to be able to pay these things off every month. That way you're paying zero interest. You're reaping the benefits of the credit card that offers the points and miles for your everyday spend. So there are tons of cards out there: Capital One, Chase, American Express. There's a ton of them, and a lot of cards within each of those companies and others that specialize in travel related rewards or cash back. So if you're interested in this strategy and being able to travel on little or no cash out of pocket using credit card points, then watch this video here about the Capital One Venture X card. I'll walk you through the pros and cons and how the whole thing works.